Hey, how's everyone doing? And Mr. Bautista, how you doing,
Doing
sir?
great. Doing fine. Thank you.
Today we're having the great privilege of having Mr. Richard Genera from Paso Beat podcast, and also he's running as a candidate for District 5 for City Council next year. And we want to talk about different stuff regarding the city and his point of view. Now he is going to come back as a candidate once the party really gets or the race really gets going, because there's a lot of things to talk about the city in regards, where it stands in regards to taxes and all that good jazz. But first of all, I want to introduce again Mr. Bautista. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Mr. What's your last name, senor?
Savada.
Oh, yeah, okay. I forgot it. I just,
Savada Baba, like my wife says.
no,
How and
doing great, doing great. Just looking forward to this interview. I think it's going to be an interesting one, and I'm just, raring to go.
okay. And Mr. Hernandez, how are you doing, sir? How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was great. My mother lives in Vegas, and so she came into town to be here for the holidays, and so it was her, my sister, and I, just a small little. Well, my sister went all out. She did the whole Thanksgiving dinner thing, but between the three of us, it was a small little get together, just us, and
Oh,
very
that's
very
nice.
quiet, very nice.
Hey,
Yeah, it was great. Ton
one
of
of the
food.
goats. Yeah, the. Oh, I gotta ask you. Do you have nacho cheese?
Of
Do you
course,
have,
of course.
or
Chili
whatever?
con queso.
Hey,
Of
that's a
course.
good one.
Can't have it with can't that that's gravy is what that is. That's,
Hey, right. That's what I say. I put gravy. That's my gravy for my
there you go.
my turkey. So, folks, this is going to be. We've done this in the past, but we're going to try and make this interactive. Okay, folks. So what that means is basically you'll call in. The number is 915-333-6080 if you want to ask questions. Now, the way this works, we're going to allow you to ask a question or give a comment, and then we'll let Mr. either Bautista or myself or Mr. Haneda respond. Or you could comment also if you're on Facebook. Comment it within the feed, and what I could do is try to post that while we're on broadcasting. And we're going to try to do this with other candidates that are willing to. There are some candidates that don't want to do this, which is, if you want to be transparent, this is the way to do it, right?
Hmm.
So Mr.
Exactly.
Haneda, he's the one that suggested it, and I'm like, all right, we have the ability to do that. So the number is 915-333-6080. No profanity would be allowed except from us. And no negativity, no. I do have caller ID, so if you make a comment, I can always call back. Okay, just want to make sure we put the rules out. So with that being said, Mr. Haneda, just can you kind of introduce yourself to the folks that are watching and listening?
Sure. Well, like we've heard by now, my name is Richard Genera. I'm 29 years old, born and raised here in El Paso. Um, I went to El Dorado High School, graduated class of 2010. I wanted to be a teacher for a long time, and so for the past few years, I've been going to school, putting myself through school, and working full time. And up until 2020, that was or up until 2021 really that was my main focus, was becoming an English teacher. If I ended up teaching English at El Dorado High School, where I went to school, that'd be pretty cool. I am still living in the district nearby that high school, which is why I'm running for that district. And so that wasn't like a something I absolutely needed to do, but I thought it would have been pretty cool if I ended up teaching at my old high school. But at the end of 2020, the beginning of 2021, I was feeling frustrated with some of the results of the local elections. And I felt overall El Paso had a very big issue with political engagement, with local politics, especially. And so I decided to start a podcast because I figured, well, podcasts are like the medium of the future. And what I wanted was a podcast to listen to that was going to make local government easy and accessible and entertaining and convenient and all these things. But since when I went looking for that, it didn't exist, I figured, well, that just means I have to do it myself. So I started this podcast and started watching every city council meeting. And now I watch every city council meeting and work session. And I just report on what I'm watching. And I try not to editorialize too much. I'm not trying to make people feel a certain way. I feel certain ways about certain things, and I'm pretty open about how I feel. But I do try to walk that line of just providing the information. This is what's happening. This is what we're being presented, and over the course of doing this work, I felt that my city representative was not quite hitting the bar of or the standard that I feel I could set if I were in the position. I feel that our city representatives should be the absolute most responsive position in local government. And so that takes tons of community engagement, town hall meetings, and virtual meetings and newsletters and whatever you can. Like, you need to be constantly out there and engaging with the city. I mean, in my opinion, that's what we're paying you for. That's what the position is for. Not just sitting in on the dais and voting responsibly with taxpayer money, but engaging the city and helping the city get engaged and holding its own leadership and higher leadership accountable. And so yeah, that prompted my run. I felt that our district deserved more, and we weren't getting it. And so I felt that if I felt that strongly about it, that I should step up and try to do it myself. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm running for office.
Well, there's one of the things that needs to be said is that a lot of times we complain about the things that are not being done, but we do nothing about it. And it's time that people stand up and say, this is not appropriate, or this is not what you promised. One question that I have for you real quick is what type of, or are you getting any funding from the echelon of the city, or is your funding coming from regular people?
Right now, all my fundraising has been done off of regular people. I don't have any intention to take money from like the oligarchs. There are individuals who donate to campaigns very regularly. El Paso doesn't have campaign contribution limits, so there are a handful of people who make contributions of $1,000 to $5,000 multiple times over the course of an election to the candidates that will vote on certain things that they want. And a lot of the times that's not necessarily in the best interest of the people. Exactly. So to answer your question, no, all of my fundraising is grassroots. It's all my campaign is of the people, for the people. But that makes it extra difficult because there's such a lack of engagement with local politics. People aren't, ready to just start throwing down money on their city council races. So it's a climb. It's a struggle. Fundraising is definitely one of those bars that keeps people out of local politics. But I'm determined not to let that be my big obstacle. I have a lot of, I think innovative ideas about how to handle fundraising.
So you're first, those who are really coming in, you're watching No Vision Internet Radio. We're broadcasting on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And so we're going to try and make this interactive. I just put a comment on our Facebook post or Facebook broadcast, like misspelled. Oops, sorry. So you can comment and we'll show it on the broadcast. If you have a question or a comment, you can also call in at 915-333-6080. Of course, we will not allow profanity or any negative comments towards the guest or the co-host. Well, maybe the co-host, but not the guest.
Wait, come on, wait a minute.
Although, sorry about that.
To be fair, if you're a little negative about politics in general, like, it's okay. People are frustrated by politics, and I welcome that frustration.
Well, exactly.
When I used to be, I was a civil service commissioner. That was one of my biggest concerns, was that people want you to represent them, but then they don't come to represent you, and to back you in your issues that you represent. And I'm just wondering to see, like, with our voting, the voting here in El Paso is not the greatest. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing. So for you to have to go and ask people for assistance, money wise, or to even come and vote for you, you really have to go out into the community, I think.
Well, yeah, and that's 100% why I'm running the campaign the way I'm running it, in a sense of running it so early, in the little bit of time that I had to canvass so far, and I really wish I could find more time. But in the little time that I have canvassed, there are people who notice the fact that my election isn't until November 2022. We have in their case, I had a whole year before the election was going to come up, and I said, and say very honestly with them, it 100% has to do with the fact that my opponents have money and I don't.
Mhm.
I don't have the luxury of, waiting until 2 months before election day, throwing out a couple grand to get some signs and posters and have them posted all over the place, and then just count on the fact that people are only going to look around, see those signs, and be like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just pick that name.
But
I have to do the work.
I'm extremely happy to hear though that you have your own podcast, because you can do a lot for yourself by using your podcast. You're going in and checking out on what's going on in the city, and how they vote and all. That's one of the things that concerns me, is that we're voting, and usually we're voting for the higher hierarchy, or the people who have the money, who make that determination as to what policies are going to be accomplished here in the city. And so that takes away from the people. Like you said, the people should be represented, not the money. Because my brother says his favorite saying is, "Money talks, and BS walks," and that's true.
Caca de toro. But one of the things that really, if you notice, Mr. I'm gonna call you Richard, because
Of course, please.
I want you to be part of the discussion. Trying to let our hair down and whatnot, even though I don't have no hair. But
Pelon.
one of the issues that always comes up, and before we go any further, also we have to understand that not one person can make a change. In other words, it has to be a coalition of city council members that go on board and make the changes. What I mean by that is, if you notice, there's always like 2 or 3 city council members that vote for the people, and then the rest of them forget about it. They throw the vote to the side and vote their way. So with you, Mr. Richard, is that one of the main things that we've seen having different candidates on the show, and we do this for a purpose, like what you just said right now. Bring the information out. It's up to you to who you want to vote for. We do not endorse. We just give our personal perspective regarding the actions of the candidates that we've seen, that me and Mr. Bautista have seen. But we will not endorse like, oh, vote for this person or vote for that person, because we're trying to keep this as non-biased as possible. And so with that being said, one of the things that we've seen a lot on the show regarding the city issues, talking about the city, I forgot about this, the county. Next week, we're going to have David Adams. He's running for Precinct 4 for County Commissioner. And the week after that, we're going to have Blanca Trout. And interestingly enough, she's also running for Precinct 4 City County Commissioner. So we have 4 people running for. Well, I guess is it partisan or non-partisan? It's partisan, right? For the county. So I guess
counties. Mm-hmm.
So it's three Democrats and 1 Republican. But anyway,
which tracks with our area?
Yeah, the Democrats. You're right.
Yeah,
So let me ask you this: the main, going back to my. Yeah, I keep jumping around. The main 2 things, or 3 things really. The first one is taxes. Mm-hmm. Okay, number 2 would be the conditions of the infrastructure, like the roads and
streets.
Streets and all that. And number 3 is just the endless spending, which is sometimes we see as ridiculous, which it is. So, what are your points of view on those 3 things? Let's start with the taxes. Regarding, for those who don't know, El Paso is number 2. Okay, number 2, and the Metroplex regarding our size in the United States, not the state, United States, and the taxes we pay. That's how high it is. Ours here in the house, we went up $600. How about you, Mr. Bautista?
Mine didn't go up because I'm an elderly person.
Oh, okay, that's right. He was born in 1800. That's right. I forgot. No. Yeah. No, ours went up 6. Sorry.
To their credit, yes, the city did implement a few extra breaks for 65 older and our ADA folks. Yes, and
the thing is, so what do you say about? I mean, because I know you yourself, and I know you try to do your best regarding the change, but you meet those other city council members to follow along. But going from that, what is your perspective regarding how do we really address the tax issue when it's gone so far. I mean, we're just like what 2.3 or 2.6 billion dollars in debt.
Yeah, I think we're just over the 2.0 mark now. Very recently. So there's a lot to your question. I'm gonna break it apart into a few different things, and then kind of hopefully tie it all together at the end. So first
Sure.
off, as far as I'm the one person in this whole group of 8, which is absolutely true. I make no like false promises. Like I can't just promise the world because it's impossible for me to deliver it all on my own. I have to work with this group of 8 people on the council. The good thing is that the work that I've been doing with the El Paso Beat has already started to put me into a position where I can have these conversations and get into the understanding of some of these representatives. I have let's talk about taxes. For example, the certificates of obligation. I've talked with both Representatives Molinar and Hernandez, who are were on opposite sides of the most recent issuance of certificates of obligation a couple of months ago, and I feel like going into those conversations, they both felt that they could talk to me and knew that they could have a conversation. They could make their case. They could say what they felt and believed. And even when I pushed back, it was in good faith. It was, there was a conversation to be had there, and there was compromise to be made, even if we didn't see eye to eye on absolutely everything. And I think that's 100% like absolutely necessary for the council to function, is for that kind of dynamic to exist. And the fact of the matter is that if you watch these council meetings and you kind of pay attention to how things get put onto the agenda and who's doing what and how people are voting, you see that there are some divides, there are some kind of cliques within our own city council. And personally, I feel like I can kind of bridge that gap. Now that's going to be necessary because, well, the city of El Paso has seen a lot of mismanagement and disinvestment over decades. We don't get to the mess that we're in right now overnight. This isn't just like one bad administration. This isn't just one city manager. This is years and years and years of going in one direction and allowing that to compound and complicate. And I think I would be a candidate, a representative in a very different direction. But that's a long time of issues to have compounded for me to start to like fix all on my own in one term. And to be fair, there are members on the council who make progressive choices. We do have some progressive voices, at least one at any given moment, I think, on the council. And so those same voices did vote to support the certificates of obligation because we have all these issues that we haven't been properly investing in. Now, property taxes, a majority go to public safety, and a majority of that portion goes to salaries. Granted, there's still millions of dollars within the public safety budget for us to work with. That's still not a huge chunk of what is actually portioned off. We need to be smarter about how we're spending that. The fact of the matter is that our public safety salaries are set. They're contractually set with what was it, like group negotiations? Every time it comes up, it escapes it slips out of my
bargaining,
mind.
The union bargaining, right?
Yes, the bargaining, collective bargaining, and so that's all set by contract, and so we have to just kind of include that in our budget and work with what's left. And so we have to be smarter about it. We have to be smarter about how we're spending that money, and we need to be real about the fact about how we're categorizing our spending. Streets is a public safety issue. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to say that, like, okay, we need to find a way to get streets, or some of that money that's in public safety, into fixing our streets. Because for our streets, tying this to that concern, for fiscal year 2022, we've appropriated around, I believe it's 20 to 20, I think it's like 22 million to our streets budget for fiscal year 2022. If we wanted to get all of our streets to a barely passing grade of 70, on a PCI score of 70, we would need to spend around 44 million to get all the streets in the city completely passing grade. So even if, all of our streets weren't messed up, we're not putting in enough to get everything up to speed. And so, that means that there are streets that are going to go untreated for another year. There are, potholes that are still going to go unfilled for another year. And it's not all mismanagement in this sense. I mean, we're starting to finally fix these issues. We didn't originally have a streets maintenance fund in the past. This is a very recent thing that recent administrations have established and started putting money into. And those kinds of decisions are the ones that I want to, reinforce and bring to the table. But there are other decisions, and I'm going to call it out. And things like the water parks are, that's a lot of money. And I haven't seen the numbers come back on how this year went with the water parks. I will say that I have heard from some people on the inside that the water parks are actually profitable, that they actually generated income, a total profit for the city. I would like to see that in a report. I would like to actually see numbers before I rest that case. But if that is the case, then okay, there's a little bit of a silver lining there. But I am concerned about how much money it is. I mean, we're in the middle of the desert, and we opened 4 new water parks, and chlorine is at an all-time high, price right now because of the supply chain issues, and it's things like that, And as I've been canvassing around my neighborhood, something that I hear a lot of complaints about is unnecessary street projects that are being done. I have a lot of newer neighborhoods in my area. The Far East Side isn't as old as Central or the Lower Valley. We have a lot of newer neighborhoods, and I was in one neighborhood not too far from where I live, and all of the people I spoke to in this block area had the same complaint. Is they added these things, these medians kind of to the street, and narrowed the street. And now anyone in anything larger than a four-door car has an impossible time trying to turn and navigate through this street. And as it happens, this street sees a ton more traffic because of the construction that's happening on Montana. So now there's more people driving through here. It's tighter corridor, and it's just it's just a bad planning. And then at the end of it, the people who live there were well, we don't even know why they did this. No one talked to us. We didn't ask for this stuff. We didn't ask for this project. It just, to them, they felt it was just someone just spending money to spend money. And it's that's ridiculous. We can't be doing that. We can't do projects like that. We need to be smarter about stuff like that, because we're facing a whole mess of issues on the horizon. And everyone's worried about streets, and I get it. We need to fix our streets, but that's really just a drop in the bucket of what we have to take on.
What's your take on the arena?
So I have seen some papers and some studies that show that these arenas are not profitable, that they're money holes, right. And that tracks. It makes sense. If El Paso was already a lively tourist hub, maybe we could have that discussion. I don't like the idea of having displaced people from their homes. I don't like the idea of having destroyed, our founding neighborhood. I don't like just how divisive the whole project has become overall.
No, but you know what's the scary part about this, Mr. Richard?
Sorry, tell me.
No, sorry to interrupt you there, but just to make more context to what you're saying is, this thing was passed in 2012 at 186. If I forgot the numbers. Yeah. But that's back then. But now, almost next year, within months, going to be 10 years old. So of course, that money is not going to be 180. Let's say 180, for example. It's going to be well over 500 million, like Mr. Max Grossman has been saying. So to me, it's we're kind of going into that rabbit hole of the unknown. For example, building it and then having to sustain it,
Mhm.
maintain it. Because I mean, we can all agree having a baseball stadium here is awesome if we can sustain it. For example,
Yeah, yeah.
like nah, I feel low because you said you graduated in 2010. Oh wow, I graduated in 1990. But anyway, I'm gonna go back in time here. Is
Yeah.
the what are they called? The Sun Kings, way back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
The Diablos, they're gone. The Diablos, when they were playing at Coast Stadium, they're gone. And then the new Diablos, when the Diamondbacks came in, boom, they're gone. So the thing is, having a stadium, and plus, you know this, Richard, I'm talking to, but just so people can understand,
Yeah.
me and Mr. Bautista were talking about that right before the show, is that the people don't understand that having that ballpark is not just there. We have to maintain it. For example, 2 years ago, even though the ballpark lost money, the city council still passed, or not the city council passed a COD, a certificate of obligation for 1 point something million for an update for upkeep of maintenance. I'm like, that's not even 3 or 4 years old. And number two, it's costing like $700,000 a season for security. That's just the baseball, not the soccer. So
And that's not coming from them. That's
it's
coming
it's
from
coming from us because the
the
taxpayer.
public. Yeah, it's not,
So I mean,
it's not the owners.
but
or the-
your stance on the arena, I understand what you're saying. And it does sound like you've been doing a lot of research.
Yeah, it's look, okay, so here's the tightrope that I'm trying to walk. I understand why people want the arena. People feel that if we have the arena, it will attract people. We'll be able to attract musicians and artists, and it will generate buzz for the city, and that will bring the people. If you build it, they will come. That's the mentality. That at least that's the conversation that the conversations I'm having with people who are defending the arena. They really see it as an investment in the downtown district. It's an investment in the city. You don't spend you can't like earn money without investing money in yourself. That totally tracks. That totally makes sense. And I get that logic. I'm not sold that the arena is the way to go. I would much rather put that money towards, I don't know, making El Paso the solar capital of the country. But, I understand why people are kind of dead set on this arena idea.
But Richard, we got away from downtown. Yes, if you recall, we got away from them. That's why we're building the malls and stuff like that, because we wanted to get away from the downtown because it was crowded. It's just too much of a hassle. And now we're trying to get back, and it's not going to work. You can't go backwards. They're trying to establish a population that will not exist. The only people that go downtown are the young people who go nightclubbing. The adults, there are no stores there. I mean, there's things shut down by 3 o'clock.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's pretty wild how the city divide is. Now, I mean, here's numbers on either side of it. Or well, before that, I'm actually a little proud to say that as a result of the arena recently, I'm sure the city council unanimously voted to start their planning preparations for the arena. They're hiring consultants. They're going to start talking to planners and all that. And one of the things that they're doing, one of the things that's being included is an updated economic impact study. And I'd like to think this was a result of bringing Rep Hernandez on to the El Paso Beat. I brought her on a little bit after the first attempt to get an estimate for the arena was deleted from the council meeting agenda, and there's like all this controversy around it. And so right after that, I tried to get her onto the show. She agreed, and so we talked about it. And her argument about why the arena needs to go downtown is kind of points to why Cohen didn't succeed in the Northeast. It's where the people are. It's where we have the most investment currently. And financially, this is her argument. Financially, it makes the most sense that if you've put the most money in your downtown district, if you have all of that investment there, then you need to continue investing and build out. You don't want to stick the arena in the far east side or in the northeast or west side or something, because that's how you get sprawl, and you want to avoid that. And so they're arguing that they're trying to rebuild from the inside out. And I see that argument. I hear that argument, and there's some merit to it. Like I see that strategy. There's a reason that it could in theory work, but I'm still not convinced that it will work, that this is the best fit for El Paso. You know what I mean?
Well, this, I'm going to say this. I guess I'm going to be the devil's advocate here.
Go ahead. I feel like I'm being more devil's advocate in defense of the arena. I should say just to say, like, I don't support the arena going up. If I were in office, like I would very openly be a kind of a pain in the process. That being said, again, this is referring back to the conversation I had with Rep. Hernandez. The Texas Supreme Court has already pretty much approved the project. They've already pretty much given the city approval to go through with things. They're going to seek settlement with Max Grossman over his litigation. It very much feels like the arena project 10 years later is finally going to start moving forward. And I'm not eager to be a cheerleader for the project if I'm on the council, but I'm a very pragmatic person. And, if it's going to go up, then I'm going to make sure that, like, we get the best deal that we can get for it, that we're getting, like, we're doing everything right. And we're, and that ultimately it is successful for the sake of the city.
But you know what, Richard, the attendance, I look at attendance. If it's like having a professional football team. You're not going to have a professional football team if you're not going to have the attendance that will make it, bring in the revenue that you need. So to me, we're not ready for an arena yet. I don't think the population here will support it.
Well, not only that, Mr. Bautista and Mr. Richard. Mm-hmm. So this is okay. Building, and like I said, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. Okay, I'm just letting you know that. Okay, but just from a perspective of a taxpayer. So you're going to put another big arena or big facility in downtown. Mm-hmm. I remember last year me and my wife went to what was it? It was the Winterfest. Not last year, but the year before the COVID. Mm-hmm. We went to the Winterfest, and they had another event there. They had some block party there or something. I forgot what it was. Coming out of there,
a nightmare,
folks. It's like an hour. I'm at like an hour and a half.
Oh yeah.
So, okay, so that's number one. Number two. We got gone to a baseball game, and like I said, we've had events there. We're celebrating different abilities, so I'm not going to deny that. Sure. So this got me to look at the prices, folks. Majority of people here, if you know Richard and Mr. Bautista,
yeah,
El Paso is a service industry. In other words, restaurants, retail, movies. We're not a high tech where we could pay like Amazon kind of money. With that being said, very few of us could afford going to the ballpark. Let's say me and my wife were to go and have our 3 kids go. We had kids. That's over $100 in one shot. Or over, be honest, more like $150 for the food. Because when me and my wife went to the baseball park, it was like close to $30 for 2 hamburgers or 2 hot dogs and fries and all. Anyways, the point is, yes, we could build it. They could come. But can we sustain it over a long period of time? Because if you build a $500 million ballpark, or whatever it's going to be, more likely $500 million, according to Max Grossman, which I trust because he's an educated man, and I trust you too, Richard. Before I forget, Richard, congratulations on having Ms. Veronica Escobar on your podcast.
Thank you.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So with that being said, to me, I understand they want to build out. That's their idea.
Right.
But right now, like, it's not there yet because
it's not there yet. And you know what? And I love
exactly what I said. Yeah.
I love the aspect to the arena or to the arena in general.
Yeah, we're not ready.
Do I want a large space that could hold a bunch of people that would attract top line musical acts to El Paso? Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I want that for El Paso. I would love for that to be here. I just want it done smart, and I just want it done in a way that's not going to displace people or our history and isn't going to financially crush, the people who actually live here, you know? And so that's that line that I want to walk, and I just don't feel that right now, with everything that's gone on over the last couple of years, with everything that's coming up over the next, like you said, El Paso is a service city. Our industries are call centers and restaurants and retail, and all of those jobs are in danger over the next handful of years.
And Richard, let me give you a better example. We are in dire need of good buses, quality buses for the people with disabilities. We're in dire need for all that equipment, and yet we are spending $2-3 million to upgrade or to refurbish the or the maintenance is on the ballpark. And you got all these poor people, because we're poor, because people who are disabled don't have the money, and even then they want to charge us $5 per trip now, because we haven't charged you, we haven't raised your fees in 10 years, but then they haven't gotten any buses in 10 years.
Well, so you can know, Richard, and those who are watching and listening. So we're going to go real quick. I'll give you a quick overview of what Mr. Bautista is talking about. That, and we want to tell all the candidates that are running for city council, we're going to talk about the same thing. Okay, Richard? So a few years ago, or last year, for example, the Sun Metro got 96 or close to $96 million from the CARES Act funding to either the CARES Act or the American Rescue Plan, or there's another one, I forgot the other one. But anyway, so Mr. Bautista is talking about, folks, is that the paratransit right now has, I want to say maybe 100 buses, and half of those are not working. And the ones that are transporting individuals have close to an average, each bus, over 500,000 miles. 700.
Or,
yeah, well, they've probably gone up now. And the point is, that's what we're talking about with people with disabilities when it comes to the quality of life, quote unquote, is that, you could spend $6.9 million on spray parks, or this money on this, but how about those essential tools or services that we need to be more interactive in life? Because people with disability, folks, the main two things for life is quality of life, like, for example, medical services, and number two is transportation. If we don't have transportation, we're stuck in, and like right now, the Sun Metro is closed on Sundays and major holidays. But the thing is, like Mr. Bautista said, we have all this money from the CARES Act. Where are the buses? Where's Sun Metro doing that? I mean, that's what I'm saying about city council, for example, as you probably talked about this on your podcast, having that excess of $30-point-something million, 24 went to something. But anyway, the point is, there's money out there. I'm getting excited, so I want to start hearing them. And the thing is, they don't understand that, the essential things, like, for example, the police department. For example, they're having a hard time hiring people because of the situation with the pay here in El Paso compared to, what people do? They come on here on the force and they leave to bigger cities because they get more money.
And that's because, and George, that's because we have an academy, and they go through the academy, and then Houston comes and grabs them because they're bilingual and all that, and they take them over there because they pay them a little bit better. So, we do things like that, and and that's one of the things that's disturbing to me, is that the same thing with the buses. I hope that you will bring that issue up there in your podcast, Richard, and talk about the things that people with disabilities, we're humans. We need to be treated like equal, like, give us the opportunity. 70 something% of blind people do not work in this city. Did you know that?
I did not.
Over 70% of blind people. And so then we have situations where we go in and apply for a job, like at a call center, and then we're turned back because our equipment is not compatible with theirs. And the law says that they have to make it compatible. So nobody's protecting us. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's like Mr. Bautista, sorry to cut you off. It's that the thing is, Richard, and those who are watching and listening, is that we have to understand, yes, there's a quality of life issue regarding making life better, we want to make sure we make life better for everyone, not just a
Right.
specific. That could be, it was funny. I heard an old podcast from Joe Rogan with Barney Barney
Sanders.
what's his name?
Oh,
Barry, yeah,
Bernie.
Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Barney. Sorry about that. That's it. Sanders. And he said something that Mr. Bautista had always been telling me this, but it clicked. He said, because Joe Rogan was asking him, well, why are we in this situation with the climate thing and the environment and Medicare? And he goes, because billionaires say what they want and they get it. And it clicked, like here in El Paso. The billionaire, Richard Foster, he wants a ballpark or he wants this, and he gets it at our cost.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true.
And the thing is with you, Richard,
He's not paying me.
exactly.
I haven't gotten my check from Paul Foster. I haven't gotten my check from Woody Hunt. For what it's worth, if you are of the opinion that all politicians are dirty, then I don't know when I was supposed to get the mud bath because I don't have any money.
Yeah.
So what do you say in regards to those who live in District 5? Which area is that? Just so people
Far East
can know.
Side. Far East Side. So it kind of makes a bit of a triangle, but Lee Trevino on Montana, that's kind of like the westernmost point, and then you're gonna go all the way down Montana out, far east past Zaragoza, and then if you kind of follow south down Zaragoza and make a triangle from Zaragoza and Pelicano ish, and then make from that point and kind of triangle it to the Lee Trevino Montana point, you roughly have the District 5, so that people have a. But keep in mind that we are currently in the redistricting process, and District 5 is going to look drastically different by the time the 2022 elections roll around. Yeah.
So what do you really ask you that what district or where the layout, the geographic? What do you see? Because I know every area in El Paso is different, like the Lower Valley compared to the West Side, to Northeast, to Central. So what do you see that needs to be addressed in your district, which is District 5? What are the areas that you see that need to be improved now?
What we've seen is that District 5 has been the growth spot of El Paso. We saw that bear out in the 2020 census. Currently, the district has somewhere around 113,000 residents or so, and the overall number is going to get cut down. The districts need to be made even, and so at the end of redistricting, each district's going to be at 80 to 80, maybe 85,000. Okay. So I mean, we're going to lose a significant amount of people from the district in order to kind of even out. The district is very much residential, and so people are concerned about property taxes. That's the number one thing that they're concerned about. It's people who are driving all across the city, and so they see the streets all over the city, and so they're worried about that as well. I get your point, how areas of the town have their kind of their vibes to them. The east side is expanding very quickly, and in the next handful of years, I could see it really becoming something of itself, especially with all the new businesses that are opening up over there and everything that's kind of expanding over there. Right now, over the last couple of years, though, it's been largely I feel the residential focus or the residential hotspot of the city.
What about one of my concerns has been I see too many new schools popping up. Do we need? We have so many empty buildings, and then yet we got new schools coming up, and some of the schools that hadn't been that old are being refurbished or knocked down to be replaced. How do you see that, or what is it that you think we can do to correct the problem if there's a problem, or to
So when it comes to schools and stuff like that, what some people don't realize is that you have a school district a trustee, an elected
Mm-hmm.
official who represents your interests and your tax dollars when it comes to spending from the school districts, and the school and the school boards are the ones who decide on bonds and where those schools are getting those refurbishments and investments and things like that. And so the El Paso Beat was largely something that was meant to and is meant to help people get more engaged and help keep people accountable in that aspect. I covered the EPISD school board elections as best as I could. It was very early on in the show, and so I was still getting my feet under me and still kind of learning the ropes of interviewing, particularly political interviewing, which is very different from regular interviewing. And if elected, I have, in the district as it is right now, I have 2 different school districts with 3 or 4 different school board trustees who serve various pockets of my different constituency. It's 100% in my intention to have town hall meetings where I have those school board trustee members coming out and saying, look, this is why we're putting this school here. This is why we're spending this money on these refurbishments. This is why we're doing this. And if they're not going to come and speak at my town hall meetings to my constituents, our shared constituents, I am going to take it very personally, because I do represent my constituents and they're not getting, the full representation from you, their other elected official. And I'm going to make it very clear. It's like, well, look, this is what I'm trying to do for you. And this is what's happening. If you're not happy about it, you can change it. You can get involved. You can vote. You can, get more people involved and so that we can fix this. Because that's the thing, is that all of these issues that we have at the very core of it, the very first step one, is people need to get more engaged.
Yep.
People need to start paying more attention. People need to vote. I know people are frustrated and don't want to participate, and politics is divisive and it's annoying and it's garbage. And, I get it. I feel you 100%. I do. You have to do it anyway. We have to slug through this because,
Richard, I was an educator, and the reason that I'm bringing that up to your attention is that you have a podcast, you have a voice, you can educate your district voters by giving them the information that they need to have to make a decision. We got board members that that have no idea of what a budget is. They have no idea. They just run for the board because somebody say, hey, why don't you run for the board? The school board is open. Why don't you run for it? And they run for it, but they have no knowledge whatsoever about education.
And also, Mr. Bautista, as those who are watching and listening, just to make sure that, to give that information out, is that the taxes that we're paying, not, just to, like you say, Mr. Richard, just to be fair, it's not all 100% going to the city.
No.
It's portioned out. I think it's 46 to the city, county, and then a
majority of your tax dollars go to the school districts.
Yes.
100%. Your school board trustee has more control over your tax dollars, but dollar for dollar, than your city representative does, because percentage wise, the school district is what gets the most amount of your money. So it's ironic that where the most money is going, where the most money is being spent, where you could see the most drastic changes in responsibility and management, so you could see improvements, is by and far the elections that see the least turnout. I think for the EPISD school board races, we saw 2%, maybe 3%, which was an increase. It was like a slight tiny increase on the same elections.
Richard, that's going back to what you said. Richard, going back to what you said. Participation, because I have a hashtag on Facebook, no participation, no progress. What that means is, and like a friend of mine, Abel Rodriguez from dialogueep.com, he had that voters revolution, is because, like you said, we need people to come out and vote. Okay, you're going to see, Latino and Spanish. ¿Por qué? Ya está, it's done. But we need to go out there and vote, because look at what happened with Saminego. He won by, 30 votes or something like that?
Something like that.
Or crazy number. But the thing is, like Richard, if you really believe in Richard Genera, go out there and vote for him. Just don't, like you say, you don't have the money to go out there and put a name, boom, For example, Oscar Leeser. Oh, I know that name. I don't know the person, but I know that name. You know what? I'm just gonna vote for him because I just know the name. But you need to know the person. That's why we've tried to bring people on board. And for the last time, just if anybody's listening late, if you want to call in, ask Richard a question or Mr. Bautista, 915-333-6080. We're going to probably try to do this a little bit more. We haven't really done that much in the past. But
well, I hope that Richard will come again several times, because I think we're having a great discussion on the various topics. And I, like I said, he's got a podcast. We've got a podcast. We need to educate the public, because if we don't, it's not about just educating the people with disabilities. It's not about that. It's about educating anybody and everybody. Yeah. And I think that we need to do that, because we've got to improve the situation in our schools, in our city.
It's like you're saying, Mr. Bautista. Sorry to cut you off. It's that we might think that we're not really touching people, but you'd be surprised that there are people that reach out to me. Like one time we were talking about the taxes for how to do an appeal for your taxes. We had a whole video and podcast and whatnot.
Nice.
And I had someone reach out to me and say, George, I'm so glad. She actually called me, almost crying, that, you know what? I didn't know about this all these years, and thank you so much for doing this. And I'm like, wow. I remember Mr. Bautista, I told you, I'm like, wow, that's cool. That one person, that one vote can make a difference. And like, at one point, our podcast was hitting 600, 700 people a week. And then we're like, wow, that's great. But the thing is, just get the word out. Get the word out. Like for you, Richard, yes, young, or the election season is young. We're barely, a year away from it. But still.
Got a little less than a year, yeah.
Yeah, but the year, folks, it's going to go
it's gone quick.
That.
Oh, I know.
We're going to be like, crap, And
I set out at the beginning of September, and it's already December, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
I tell you, Richard, that's a smart thing to do, because most politicians, they don't show up till it's a month or two
right
before,
into the last second,
and we don't have much of a voice, because we don't know who they are. So you're coming on way ahead, and people are going to be able to see, well, look, we can ask him this, we can ask him that, we want to know about this, and we want to know about that. But I think you're doing the smart thing.
Yeah, right now, do you have a website right now, Richard?
So I have a website for the campaign, which is henetta4district5.com. If people wanted to check out more on me personally on the campaign, I don't have a website for the El Paso Beat. Okay. I'm on all the social medias.
But hold on, he is subscribed to El Paso Podcast. Check it out on Facebook, and you can subscribe to you. You can subscribe where on Sketcher, right?
For me, for the El Paso Beat.
Yes.
I'm on pretty much. I'm on all the Spotify, or I'm on the streaming podcast, Spotify, Google, Apple, Pandora, Blast FM, all those good stuff. My podcasting host does all the dispersing.
Who's your host, by the way?
Buzzsprout.
We have Beansprout or Podbean.
Podbean. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Podbean. Anyways, that's something else. But you're, like I said, Mr. Richard, I told you this off the air, and I'm gonna tell you now. You're more welcome to come back. Just not really talk about. Right now, we're doing politics, but we want to, of course, go into other stuff. Like for example, we've had Mr. Cruz Morales Jr. from the El Paso Barrio Club. Oh, by the way, folks, real fast, Mr. Richard, sorry.
Sure.
Mr. Cruz Morales Jr. from the Alvadio Sports Club, folks. He's having a Christmas event December the 18th to give out gifts for the kids there in the Vadio, which is near Bowie High School. So if you want to, donate a gift, anything, used, $1, whatever, let him know. They have a Facebook page. If not, you can comment, message us, and we'll give you his contact information. Because folks, we're kind of blessed when we get to a certain age. Like, we're not. How can I say? Some people are like, oh, I'm going to get this, or, oh, I want this iPhone, or I want this jacket, or I want this whatever. But there's kids, folks, that are saying, what am I going to get? If I'm going to get anything. And, it's kind of sad, folks. I mean, I've been there, and my mom busted her butt, 2 jobs to get me what I want. So, but there's parents out there that can't work. or for example, someone that has a child with a disability, and they have to stay home to take care of the child. They can't work, so so just if you could donate to the Vadio Sports Club, go ahead and do that, please. But anyway, back to you, Mr. Richard. You're more welcome to come back anytime you want. The El Paso Beat podcast, folks, check it out. And like I said, he had Escobar on there. I was kind of jealous.
Oh yeah, that was, and I worked for that one too. I had to work for that one because I reached out to her office back when I first started the podcast, and I didn't really expect her to come on super early on. I didn't really have any reputation or anything to show, and any kind of portfolio to say, look, I'm legit. You can sit down with me, And so when it took some time, I wasn't too discouraged. And then a couple of months ago, they're like, okay, for sure, like we're gonna get you down, and I was like, okay, cool. And then we just they just couldn't get me down, and then Congresswoman Escobar was filing her to get onto the ballot for the primary, and her campaign manager sent me an email, and she was like, hey, if you come, you can do your interview. Like I can make sure that she sets some time to do your interview if you do it here. And that's not like my vibe. People can't. I don't know if people can really tell. I'm in my bedroom closet right now. This is where I film.
Oh, Richard, let me tell you something. Oh man. Okay, I've been doing podcasting for a long time. Mm-hmm. Now, to this date, thanks to my wife, she's been supportive. But when I first started, Mr. Bautista, you're gonna laugh. Like you, I would literally get a chair. I don't know if you're doing that.
Yeah.
Put it in my bedroom. I had a walk-in bedroom in my apartment back then. Mm-hmm. Sit down. Now in the summer it was hot because no damn air was coming in. Mm-hmm. So sometimes one time we're doing a podcast and I'm like, I'm hot. I gotta come out of the closet. And everybody's probably like, what? I'm like, oh, what do you mean? Wait a minute. I mean, but it's so funny when I heard you talking about that. I think you're talking about that in your other podcast. I started laughing because I'm like, I've been there, man.
Oh, it's a point of pride.
You finally came out of the closet, George?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the amateurness of it. I think kind of lends to the authenticity. Mm-hmm. There's no big studio. It's not very in your face or flashy or condescending, and I feel like that's what a lot of people feel about structured mainstream media. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted the El Paso Beat to be a lot more conversational and approachable and friendly.
But Richard, be careful.
Oh,
be careful. Well,
sure.
No. Let me tell you why. So when I first started this many years ago, the guy we had gone to Guitar Center, mm-hmm. and I'm buying my first mic. I'll show it to you right now. I bought my first mic, and the guy tells my wife, "Be careful, you're gonna buy more stuff." I'm like, nah. That's it. I'm done. Several years later, now I have a stand-up mic. I have 2 computers. I have 2 mixers. It's a dangerous, a dangerous bridge.
I look very much forward to the possibility of, setting up some stuff in my office at City mm-hmm. Hall and using the office to have conversations with different people there so that I can continue talking with people. Well, with back to the story with Congresswoman Escobar, I went to her signing to get that interview, and I don't have field stuff. Like I just have this set up for my bedroom closet. I have my my mic and my laptop, and so you can actually go to her campaign page and scroll through her pictures of that day. And in one of the pictures, you see me standing off to the side with my laptop, holding out my mic while I'm recording the speech that she was giving. And then lo and behold, right when I sat down for the actual interview, my laptop crashed. Ooh. And I had to do the interview on a voice memo app on my phone.
The iPhone?
Yeah. Okay. Android. Actually, I'm on an Android. But, okay. I used the app on my phone, and it worked. It worked. I had my interview, and it was a big deal for me because, she's a sitting congresswoman, and I know she's not the most popular person in El Paso. I happen to think that she's doing a pretty good job, actually, considering everything going on in Congress.
She really is. Yeah.
We don't.
So, talking about the Congress, so that's the thing, Richard, is that people don't know how to separate politics from personal. For example, Richard's or Escobar this, or there's two different people, and I know this for a fact because, like me and Mr. Bautista, me and myself, I've been doing this for 7 years. Me and Bautista together for 2 years regarding politicians. I've got to talk to a lot of politicians off air and get to know the person. I'm gonna tell you what, folks. Be careful what you wish for, because there's some politicians out there. Tell you what, no, not to be mean, but the thing is, like Escobar, I've had her on my show at least 3 times, and to me, that just shows to how she is regarding interacting with people with disabilities. And we had I'm getting to a point here. People have always told me, why don't you have like people like a debate, like for you, have the district incumbent with you on the same platform. I'm like, no, because that just kills time, because it didn't allow you, Richard, to talk about what you want for the 30 or an hour, half an hour, whatever time it takes for you to talk about your issues. And when you have two people debating, all they're doing really is just going back at each other. Well, you this and you that, and people don't really see or hear what they want to hear about, taxes or the roads or this or that. That's why we will never do that. I had that one time, and people that went to the event know what I'm talking about. We had one at the EPCC here in Viscount. We had all the congressional delegates or candidates, from Escobar to Ms. Chavez to Jerome Tillman to all you see, Rick Seeberger, Jaime Gonzalez or Garcia. Anyways, the first thing we said, I told each candidate, the manager, please don't go negative. Talk on the basics, on the issues. Sure enough, boom, they go negative. I'm like, oh, here we go. We just burn, and we don't want to do that.
And unfortunately, especially when you get to the congressional level, like that's already you're in the thick of the duopoly, the political divide, and I'm not super excited about dealing with that aspect of politics. The great thing about city representative position is that's nonpartisan, and I think it's great for me because voter participation is a nonpartisan issue. It doesn't matter. I don't care who you're going to vote for. I mean, except in my election, I want you to vote for me in my election.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
I want you to vote for me in my election. But as far as other elections, I don't care who you vote for. I want you to have all the information. I want you to feel empowered. I want you to feel like your vote does matter, because it does absolutely matter. Your vote is your voice. And as an educator, I was going into thinking I was going to go into the classroom teaching students, that writing was a way to use their voice, and but ultimately that their voice is important and special and sacred, and they have to value it properly, and the same can be said about your vote. And so I think that's I think that's the message I want people to pull away from this conversation today, is that your local representation is completely accessible to you, but you have to participate in order to make those changes happen.
Sure. And the thing is,
I think. Go ahead, George.
Well, the thing about going back to the podcast component of the discussion is that the cool thing about podcasts, and my wife was telling me the other day, she was, wow, a lot of people have podcasts. It's because this allows for us to talk about stuff without no really censorship. We have guidelines, we have to follow certain
rules.
But we could talk about, like you or anybody else that comes onto the show, Richard, or even Mr. Bautista, anybody that comes on, or me, just talk and talk and talk. Sometimes we go off the rails, but that's good. That's what a good discussion should allow.
Which is a good time. Which is a good time.
It's like when you're at a party and you're talking to your friend, and you're like, wow, 3 hours gone?
It's a good time to put
it's like right now we've been on the air for an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, so I think it's time, George, to go ahead.
I'm good. I could go another 3 hours. Not really.
I could do this all day.
But the thing is that podcasting or this kind of platform just allows for discussion regarding anything that comes into our mind while we're talking. That's why on purpose we don't do structured, because people have asked me, well, what are you going to ask? Mm-hmm. I ask, what are you going to say? Yeah, because I could ask everything in the world, but what are you going to say that really taps into that person's oh yeah, I'm going to vote for him or vote for her. But anyway, I
Richard,
guess Mr. Bautista has to go eat
we,
eat his tamales. So
yeah, Richard, we really are appreciative of you coming onto our show, and again, like George says, you're welcome to come back, and hopefully you will come back, and we'll discuss maybe other issues and topics that will interest our listeners and your
Let me.
listeners.
You absolutely let me know time and place. Let me know when, and I'd be happy to be back with you, gentlemen.
yeah,
Thank you.
so check out the El Paso Beat podcast. You subscribe. Just go to your phone. Just you have a podcast player like I have Downcast. I don't know. That's an old one. But anyways, just type in El Paso Beat, subscribe, boop, and every time like us or Mr. Richard uploads an audio, it pops up. So let me ask you this before we go. This is a sidebar issue. We're having a good discussion. What do you like better, video podcasting or audio podcasting?
Oh, I do all audio. I like to say I'm too ugly for video, so I do all audio. If I get elected and have a setup in the office, and I'm bringing people there to like do interviews and stuff like that, I might invest in like a decent video camera so that I can have the video aspect to it as well. But yeah, for right now I'm all audio. It's the fewer things to worry about, the better.
the good thing about Richard, about me and Mr. Bautista, we're blind. That's why we have video too. So we don't care how we look. We can't see anyway. But anyways, Mr. Bautista, anything before we go, sir?
No, just like I said again, we're grateful and thankful for Richard's interview. I think it's going to be a good one, and again, I'm looking forward to the next one.
Thank you very much.
And if you want to listen to our old podcast, any of our past interviews, we've had this particular cycle, we've had Sissy Bird, we've had David Stout, Art Fieto, of course, you, Mr. Richard Genera. We're gonna have Dave Adams, or Dave Adams, sorry. Block of Trout. We're gonna have Carl Robinson, and then hopefully, of course, we'll have Miss Escobar. But I'm gonna wait till maybe January for her. But anyways, if you want to subscribe to No Vision Internet Radio, you can even ask if you have a smartphone or a smart speaker like I do, like Echo. There you go. But anyways, Mr. Richard. Sorry about that. Stop. Echo, stop. Sorry about that, folks. Because you're talking. But anyways, Mr. Richard, thank you for being on the show. Mr. Bautista, I salute you, sir, and we'll see everyone next week.
Take care, guys.
Thanks.